Welcome to the Leadership Buzz with Lloyd Buzz Buzzell, an International Coaching Federation credentialed coach, DISC practitioner, and retired Air Force colonel. During a military career spanning nearly 4 decades, 37 years of service, Buzz rose from enlisted airman to colonel, spending much of that time in nuclear operations, from missile alert duty to strategic command and control. Those experiences taught him that trust, discipline, relationships, and values are not abstract leadership ideas. They shape how people perform when the mission matters. Now, Buzz brings those lessons into conversations for leaders who want to grow in self-awareness and better align their behavior with their values. Each episode features one book, one idea, one story, and 3 coaching questions to help you reflect on your leadership. Work hard, tell the truth. Here's Buzz.
Welcome back to the Leadership Buzz. I'm glad you're here. Hey, today's conversation is especially personal for me because it really deals with something nearly every successful leader eventually confronts. And that's really the possibility that what once worked may not work forever. So during my career, my Air Force career, every new level and responsibility required really something different from me. But it was really just tempting to fall back and keep relying on the same behavior that had already been rewarded. I mean, really, those behaviors helped me succeed, so why would I change them? Why would I learn anything new? Why would I change? And that's where leadership growth can become difficult. Success can build confidence, but it can also make us less curious about our own behavior. We may become so focused and obsessed on adding new knowledge and skills that we never stop to ask that there is something we need to do less or possibly stop doing something altogether. As you listen today, think about one behavior that has helped you become successful, hold on to it for a moment, then consider whether that same behavior always serves you, your team, and the leader you're becoming. This should be challenging, but a valuable conversation today. TJ, take us into a little more about today's book that we're reflecting on.
Today's book is What Got You Here Won't Get You There by renowned executive coach Marshall Goldsmith. Goldsmith examines the subtle habits that can hold successful people back, things like needing to win, adding too much value, passing judgment, and failing to listen. He calls attention to the success delusion, our tendency to assume that because our behavior helped create success in the past, it will continue producing success in the future. The book challenges leaders to identify what they may need to stop doing, not just what they need to learn next. Buzz, let's talk about that idea.
Hey, I just want to set the book up just a little more here with that central idea that the strengths that help us succeed at one level can sometimes become limitations at the next, or maybe that we need to develop more stuff when we get to that next level. So that central argument is important because we often just make that assumption that if we're successful in the past, we just transfer everything. Our current approach is working, so of course we got promoted. Of course we got move more responsibility, that we're managing more people, leading the organization maybe in a different way, but it's just a different thing, and just whatever we did in the past is going to be transferable. But every transition really does ask something different from us. I'm not talking about a lateral move, but in other words, a whole different type process there. So the question isn't only what must I learn, but maybe it's also what must I stop doing. So every time I moved into a larger leadership role, I carried the strengths with me. It's not about leaving those behind, but I also carried the habits that no longer serve me at some times. I enlisted in the Air Force in the mid-'80s as a young 22-year-old with a young wife and a baby. And what made me successful as an enlisted airman was just that hard work and determination. It was that ability to be able to put forth 100% effort every day and listen to my leaders and see what was important to them, and that I would work on those things. That's not a real hard thing to do in a sense, right? Like you get to know what your leadership wants, and then you just take care of what they need. And so my senior enlisted folks, the master sergeants, the chief master sergeant that was leading us over in our division, I worked in the personnel division, and working in that division made me realize that I could really overcome a lot of things with just really, really hard work. Inside my time as an enlisted leader, they sent us to Airman Leadership School. They started teaching us how to be a leader of other people. And when I got promoted to sergeant E4, that's buck sergeant, which doesn't exist anymore in the Air Force, but I started leading one person, and then I led more. And I had to learn how to lead those people, how to help them, take care of them. And that just gave me some new things that I needed to learn, where just hard work didn't take care of that. I had a young troop that I took care of, and I was in charge of him. And I had to make sure that he knew what he was doing, both from a technical expertise and also from an Air Force perspective. And those new leaders, just like I did, can feel pressure to prove they deserve the position. And I really wanted to make sure I proved that. And that's really not important that you need to demonstrate that you always have that answer. It's creating the conditions for other people to contribute their knowledge. So I wanted that airman to improve rather than just me coming up with all the answers. So I didn't have to prove that I belonged in every conversation. I just had to learn how to make the conversations better. Following my enlisted time, I became an officer, a second lieutenant in the United States Air Force, and I became a missile operator in nuclear operations. I was responsible a lot for my own performance. So when I went to work, it was up to me to become a technical expert under the guidance of my leader, my bosses, my operations officers, my flight commanders. And as I moved through that responsibilities, I realized that technical expertise wasn't going to be the sole thing to bring me forward. Eventually, I became a flight commander, and there I became more responsible for the performance and development of others. But when you're just a technical expert, that's what the most important thing is. And in the Air Force, being a technical expert is what will get you ahead eventually. But once you initially get to be a supervisor or a leader, then you have to learn those things on how to become a better officer and better leader. When I became a captain in the Air Force, which from second lieutenant and first lieutenant, you eventually advanced to captain. So that meant I'd been an officer for 4 years. And I became a flight commander at one of our launch control centers. That was very important. And when I went to that launch control center, that missile alert facility, I was treated different once I pinned that on. It was kind of recognized that I was the flight commander. I was above all the lieutenants. And as a captain, you may be in for 4 years or you may be in for 10 or 11 years. So you get treated just a little bit different. That kind of woke me up a little. That kind of made my focus a little more that, hey, I need to up my game and bring forth more as I went out on alert and how I interacted with airmen. In the book, Goldsmith describes a temptation to improve another person's ideas. And that's where I had to see, and I saw that as an officer sometimes. Even when the leader makes the idea 5% better, the employee's ownership may fall dramatically. So I really had to make sure that people had a chance on their own to get stuff done. A leader's contribution can unintentionally communicate your idea wasn't good enough until I touched it. Well, my job was no longer to be the best operator in the room. My job was to help other operators become better. And that was really important when I became an instructor. And I just love instructing in the trainer because you could bring people to the answer rather than just tell them the answer. And they remembered things better. They improved better. They become better operators and they became better officers because of that.
Buzz, what changed when you went from directly leading a small group of people to leading a much larger organization through other leaders?
Well, TJ, I will tell you that once I assumed a flight commander job and had many more people working for me, I realized it wasn't just about what I knew or what I was doing. And I tried to do that. I tried to stay a lot of extra hours. I tried to do everything on my own sometimes. And then what I realized in my flight commander job, I had three branch chiefs, division chiefs, whatever you want to call them, working for me. And they were all really, really good. And they got stuff done without me even asking. I mean, they saw a problem and they came up with the answer for it before I saw it too, because they were the closest ones to the action. That really reframed me a lot. And we had several big things going on during my time, specifically in this job. And those three people were very important to me. I took a week off and we went on our anniversary trip, and I had somebody fill in for me. When I got back, he had just done an excellent job, taking care of everything, and got a lot of good feedback and kudos from our squadron commander. She was really happy with the job he did for those 8, 9, 10 days that I was gone. I was really happy with him, and it kind of gave me the realization like, I don't have to be there for everything. I mean, everything is really important, and there's stuff that you're going to be responsible for when you're not there. People are going to do things, and you're going to be held responsible for it, even when you're not around. That's leadership. So that means you need to mentor, coach, and train people so that when you're not there, they are taking the right responsibilities. And so if somebody's calling you all times of the day and night to ask you directions and questions, you probably haven't really mentored or coached them enough to realize that there are some things they can decide on their own. I had a peer, and when he got met by somebody and they asked him, "Hey, what's the answer to this? What should I do?" And he realized that that's something that they should do. He just wouldn't answer the question. He says, and really a typical good answer for that is, I think you can figure this out on your own. And you can let people make those decisions. And that's just what I started doing with our branch chiefs in that job, was I started letting them make the decisions because I shouldn't have to. And the other thing is, they were much more capable than I was because they were right there in the job, knowing what was going on, and they had people working directly for them. So by me reaching past them, I would almost make it harder on them, and it would make it so that just me touching it, just as I was talking about before, was not as important and was not as valuable. And that was really important. I spent a lot of hours at work in that job. The folks knew it. They responded to that because they really pitched in and did a lot of extra work during that time frame. But it also was a detriment sometimes, I think, because to develop people, you need to let them do things on their own, make those mistakes, and then come back to them and say, hey, that's not exactly what I would have done. Maybe it didn't get done perfectly, but maybe you could take this other direction the next time. But you need to be satisfied with what they did so you can discuss it with them so they can learn and you can learn from them too. But I think that's what's important about mentoring and coaching and bringing other leaders along. In a subsequent job that I had as another flight commander, we had a issue with our weapon system that was supposed to come online, and this was a major development. The weapon system was not going to come online that was going to replace ours, and so we had to continue to train. Matter of fact, they discontinued the training at the initial qualification training base down in California. So then we had to start training people at our location. This was extremely difficult. Matter of fact, we had to have stuff sent from Australia all the way to Denver to be able to set up a simulator so that we could train more people. We developed an entire training development with 3 shifts around the clock to do it. This was really challenging, but a lot of my leaders that were working for me came up with a lot of those answers without me. And there's no way that a single person, a single major or captain could be able to get that all done all at once. I had to rely on others in a case where it wasn't just me contributing as an individual contributor, but me realizing that these people that worked for me was able to come up with training plans, evaluation plans, ways to be able to get 3 shifts going all at once. And we had Australians working with us, we had English, we had Canadians, so we had 3 different other countries to coordinate with during that time frame. This was really challenging, and it was something totally out of the box that we did not expect to have happen. Matter of fact, we didn't even have a real simulator at first. We had to build the simulator and then build a training program where it was then inspected by higher headquarters. That assignment proved to me that you need to learn new lessons to be successful as a team.
Buzz, for leaders wondering whether the habits that brought them success may now be holding them back, what 3 coaching questions can help them reflect, adapt, and continue growing?
What behavior helped you succeed early in your career, but may be limiting you now? And where might your need to add value be preventing someone else from taking ownership? And finally, what do the people you lead need from you now? Not from the leader you used to be, but from the leader you are today.
Marshall Goldsmith's What Got You Here Won't Get You There offers a challenging lesson for every successful leader. The qualities and behaviors that helped us advance can eventually become the habits that limit our growth. As responsibilities change, leaders must be willing to examine how they listen, respond, offer advice, and create space for others. Growth may not require adding another skill. It may begin by letting go of a behavior that no longer serves us or the people we lead. So, ask yourself, what helped me get here? Where might that same behavior be holding me back? And what am I willing to change to become the leader I need to be next? Buzz, over to you.
Thanks for listening to the Leadership Buzz. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. And if you have a moment, leave a rating or review. That helps other leaders discover the show. If these kinds of leadership questions resonate with you and you'd like to explore them more deeply, feel free to reach out to me. Coaching conversations often start exactly this way. Until next time, work hard, tell the truth.